Yeah, all from Bangalore, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Students, I think we have spread across the country, sir.
Okay, I see.
Ganeshan, we can start the session. Sir, please.
Sure.
Ganeshan, you can start. You put your mic on, Ganeshan. Yeah.
A very good evening to all of you. The Learners Conference welcomes you all to this fourth edition of the Corporate Leaders Speak Series. We thank all the participants for their continuous support in this initiative to connect the students to the corporate leaders and learn from them as they move forward in their career. We are all meeting after a very serious second wave of COVID, which has severely impacted lives, livelihood, economy, health, and education. We hope the worst is over and are moving towards a progressive future. It's an honor for me to welcome and extend our warm greetings to our guest speaker this evening, Mr. Subbaraman B., Vice President, Strategic Initiatives, HCL Technologies Limited. A short introduction to Mr. Subbaraman. Mr. Subbaraman has over 25 years of IT experience in healthcare, media, and entertainment businesses. A member of the CEO Club of HCL, Mr. Subbaraman was responsible to incubate HCL's Madurai operations and scaled to over 5,000 employees. In this pursuit, Mr. Subbaraman is responsible for entity creation, brand establishment, regional sales and marketing, business delivery, and core operations. Over the years, Mr. Subbaraman has led various technology-based roles for the community. Currently, he is also the chairman of the Confederation of Indian Industry Madurai Zone. Thank you, Mr. Subbaraman, for joining us this evening to interact with the students. Talking about the Corporate Leaders Speak Series, it's one of the important initiatives of the Learners Conference for students of higher education institutions across the country. Through this program, we intend to create awareness to students on the expectations by industry and to provide a platform for higher education institutions to interact with the corporate leaders on a regular basis. In conclusion, we believe these sessions would forge a strong and productive relationship between the academia and industry. It also provides students an opportunity to gain crucial insights into industry trends and operation challenges by learning from the industry leaders themselves. With these words, I once again thank you all for joining us this evening. We look forward to your active participation. May I now invite Dr. Senthil Kumaran, Chief Conferencer of the Learners Conference, to say a few words and conduct the session. Over to Dr. Senthil.
Ganeshan, first of all, thank you very much for that clear-cut picture of the journey of Mr. Subbaraman. I think it's very important the people who have treaded the path understand the journey. Understand the journey much better than anybody else. I think it talks about at a young age trying to establish an office at a tier 2 city at Madurai and then trying to scale it to 5,000, talks about his journey. And I think Subbaramanji, it's also a privilege that as an ex-employee of CII to talk to Chairman of Madurai. I think that's a new role what you have taken, and all the best and congratulations on your new role. There was a small attempt from our side that most of the institutions don't get an opportunity to talk to the right people. And at TLC, we believe the name itself says the Learners Confluence. The people who believe that they are learners need to come together periodically to share their journey with the next gen and also with the teaching community. With that belief, we thought that we need to start a series, and intentionally we kept it on a Thursday because typically on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, people have their own engagements and quite a lot of activities. So we kept it at 5 to 6 so the students community can take benefit out of it. And I think it's a privilege that looking forward to hearing from you. And for the participants who have joined there, we have muted you, but the chat box is open. We would request you to keep putting the chats. The format is he will speak for around 40 minutes plus, and then probably you can have direct question answer. Or if I leave it to Subramanji in case if you would like to kind of have a direct conversation with all of them, I can give them the rights to basically ask you the questions. But my suggestion is that it is worthwhile to hear of some bit at one stretch from his and then get into the conversation, because then it becomes much more interesting, because people should understand the perspectives and then react to that. So with that note, Subramanji, thank you very much for coming and joining us this evening, and looking forward to hearing from you. It's all yours for next 40 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ganeshan. Thank you, Mr. Senthil Kumaran, for that nice, warm intro and the reception into this e-meeting. Thank you so much. It's indeed a pleasure to again come back on screen to try and interact with the young future workforce of India. More than the workforce, I should rather say this is the future of India. A very, very good evening, one and all assembled here. So before we get into the details of what I had wanted to speak, it'll be good to get to see many of you be a bit more interactive, though Senthil Kumaran said you've all been muted. You can still go ahead and type in chat on the window, especially certain questions which I'm going to be asking. It'll be good if you respond so that basis that we can make it a lot more informative, a lot more meaningful for all of you to have a takeaway. So for starters, it'll be good to know what kind of, I presume many of you are students, some faculty.
I can give them the rights to ask you the question straight away. In case if you would like to go that format, we'll be more than happy to do it. I'll manage the part from the back end. Go ahead. No
Sure. Just so I presume, basis the briefing that I had, many of you are students and some faculty members from colleges as well that have joined, right? So given that background, it'll be good to know what discipline each of you is pursuing, and what course you're pursuing. Like for engineering, just say E, and humanities, say H, anything else, say others. So it'll be good for us to know what is it that you're pursuing, and it'll help me structure my conversation around that. Good to see a few E's are coming. M is for MBA or medicine. Interesting. So business management. Very good. Very good. Good. Any humanities students, any arts and science? Good. Good to see. Good to see. Very interesting responses. Thank you so much. So we've all come together, means there's something going on in the world, isn't it? When we say something is going on in the world, we all know today the pandemic has been ruling the roost. Like Mr. Ganeshan said, it's had an impact on the livelihood, and therefore the economy of the world as well. Significant impact that it's had. Now, what's important is because of this, many of the plans that several of us had, both in our personal lives as well as professional lives, took a toss. As students, for many of you, exams could not have been conducted. You must have had aspirations to get into some jobs, some businesses, some entrepreneurships, and so on and so forth. Some of them could have been delayed by virtue of this pandemic. On the personal side, there have been quite a few grievances that many of us have gone through, our friends, families, relatives, who have you, that we've all gone through. Nevertheless, we are here means there's a reason that we've all gotten to be here. So having said that, it's very important to understand what's going on in the world, right? One is the pandemic and the impact of the pandemic. The other is, as an economy, as a nation, where are we? See, as a nation, we are the second most populous today. In fact, if any of you is watching the news and trying to understand what's going on, they've announced special privileges, incentives in China for people to have more children now because they see their population shrinking, right? Despite being the most populous country. What's happening is their productive population is shrinking and their aging population is increasing. So what this is going to mean is in time to come, maybe 15, 20 years from now, their ability to produce more services and goods for the world is going to be shrinking as it stands today, right? Now, that's where country like us, especially us, come in, right? Where we see that if we deal it right, if we deal the path properly, perfectly, we can be the most powerful nation in the world, delivering the best of goods and services. However, for us to do that, we got to understand what's going on. There are several challenges, right? Several challenges. The whole point of the human race is, apart from the basics, why any particular species or race is set out to, mankind is there to make progress in the world, right? Progress in terms of ease of conducting anything and everything, right? From the days of wanting to move from place A to place B to the days of trying to sit back on the couch and watch television. There's ease of doing anything and everything. Sitting here, turning the air conditioning on with a remote. And from there, it's even going to the extent of today saying, okay, air conditioner, turn on, right? To saying air conditioner, stop working, set to 25 degrees, set to 20 degrees, what have you. From there, soon it's got to go to a point of saying, okay, let me think, it's probably getting a bit warm. So I'm thinking in my mind, air conditioner, set it to 22. And then that thinking is going to be grasped by somebody, some kind of system, translated to that thing. And it's the real auto climate control for you types, right? Personal level. So that's how the industry is heading. That's how the experience in the world is heading. In fact, I do recall sometime in 2009 or 10 in one of the forums, I was talking about this exact same fact when I said, any given day when I get my television on, sit on the sofa, a couch, there probably will come a time where there's a way for me to sign in, either through a biometric device or it kind of recognizes me by my face or whoever is there in my living room. And basis that, there's so much going to, there's going to be so much intelligence to say, well, Subbaraman, you have turned the television on at 6 p.m. today, which is very unusual of you, by the way. However, here is the most related content that you would have typically watched. Do you want me to deal with it myself, or would you like a choice, right? And if I set it to you kind of deal with it yourself, so the television system is going to have so much of intelligence to kind of bring up the programs of my choice for that time, say a Thursday evening, right? Thursday is the day where futures are traded in the market on a weekly basis. Last Thursday of the week of the month. So that's the time you would want to say, okay, how's the market doing? Are the buying and selling going on fine, and so on. So that amount of futuristic thinking is where the world is heading to on one side. On the other side, if you look at it, there's still a good part of India, about 52%, maybe 50% of the productive population by volume is spending their time only in agriculture today. So there's so much more that can be done in agriculture. There's so much of work, physical labor that's going on. Intelligence can be brought in. A lot of intelligence can be brought in. And I'll shortly touch upon how and why, right? So on one end, we talked about science. On the other end, we said where the bulk of the population is going. On the other end, looking at the sheer growth of population in the country, there were several policies that were brought in right from the time of the government wanting to set up ITIs. If I recall, I think 1969 or sometime when the first ITI was set up in the country, right? Saying there's going to be so much of manufacturing taking place in the country. So let us set up ITIs in the country. Let's get people who kind of tradesmen to get directly into the jobs, into various manufacturing companies. So they're kind of productive right from day one. Now, that scenario continues there still. And surrounding that, many engineering colleges started coming in somewhere in the 90s and after that. Now, the volume of people that are being produced by these colleges, the intent was all of them go into various companies, especially the manufacturing companies. But what happened is, unfortunately, though the demand exists, the quality of supply, as it's called, is not a straight fit. The demand is for this kind of a job, but the quality of supply is kind of here, and there's a delta between what's required with the industry and what the supply is coming out to be. So there's a bridge that's got to take place, right? At the same time, like we talked about, there's so much of convenience and there's so much of progression taking place. If you look at it, India ends up importing a lot of fuel, a lot of oil, crude, right? And because of this, it's spending lakhs of crores of rupees in this as revenue expenditure every year. Now, so the country came in and said, you know what, as a vision for us, we want to bring down the expenditure on our imports, and we hence want to see if you can add a good amount of ethanol into fuel spirit. A policy was made, researchers came together and said up to 20% of ethanol can be added into fuel, say petrol, diesel, whatever is being consumed. Now, if ethanol can be added, the estimate was that roughly about 30 to 40,000 crores of rupees will be the annual savings for the country from import. Huge money. That money can be diverted for better infrastructure, better healthcare, better school education, so much more that can be done, right? However, the point is this: how does ethanol get produced? Let's think about it. Now, there are two large forms. Everybody thinks, so let me ask the people in here, can you type on the screen, how does ethanol get produced from a manufacturing standpoint? What industries contribute to ethanol being produced? Or what possibilities do exist? Yeah, either you can unmute and speak, or you can just type on the chat window for me to see. Either way is fine. Are people still joining, I guess? Okay, so let me talk about it. There are two large forms. Everybody will think, sir, you know what? We can get cane sugar. From sugar, we produce molasses, and from molasses, ethanol can be produced. Brilliant, fantastic. But reality is, so sugar mills and industries around sugar gain a lot of popularity ever since this policy got made. But there's another very important thing. Ethanol can be produced from corn. Did you know that it can be produced from corn? And corn, for corn, India is probably the second largest producer of corn. 73% of the world's ethanol gets, even in India, is being produced only from corn and not from sugar molasses. So as students, maybe we should try and think, okay, are these the only farms? So if it is corn, what's the amount of acreage of corn in India? Where all do they get cultivated? Do they get produced? What's happening in the value system? If 73% is through corn, and I didn't know, we probably get to have sweet corn every once a week, once in a few weeks. Is this the right thing to do? Can we develop something out of it? Can we create some value out of it back to the society as well as to our citizens? Right? Is one thing for us to think about as students. Right? So policies like these get made. On one end, there are, recently the new educational policy was launched. Several large changes were made structurally, especially in terms of you don't need to be straitjacketed into a particular area that you're pursuing. You can have a mixed match of multidiscipline, and you can have multi-major types, right? As in the Western countries. That's another thing that came in, so which gives a lot more flexibility and freedom, because many a time what happens is you kind of ask somebody who's in the 12th standard in India, what do you really want to do? The research says that roughly about 70% of people do not actually know, maybe a little bit more, do not actually know what they want to do. They go clearly by the guidance of their seniors at home, their friends, family, relatives, who have you, right? So decision making gets a lot later in life, because we still don't understand our own aspirations. It's very important that we try and understand aspirations as quickly as possible. What we want to live for, what our purpose is. So the passion that we have within us is something that need to be found out. Why it is to be found out is, like I said earlier, we are the second most populous country, and the future productive workforce is people like you for us in India, who can change the face of the nation outside. Let's try and look at a little bit more, a few other areas as well. See, what's coming up is, if you're from any of the large cities, you tend to see, I'm sure you tend to agree as well, that there is so much of pollution that takes place because of automobiles. What happened was, suddenly the middle class income in India increased significantly, and everybody started buying two-wheelers, four-wheelers, and so on. Because of this, and non-progress of infrastructure at the same pace as the progress of automobile expansion within the country, a lot of pollution started coming in. Now, to ease this, many technologies, many scientists have been researching on electrical vehicles. Now, electric vehicles have been on the anvil for well over a decade now, maybe close to 2 decades. But now is the time when the button is being pressed, right, for this to kind of positively explode in a big way in the country and outside. Why I'm saying this is, many of you have said, I'm from a business background, I'm from engineering background. If you look at it, there are quite a few companies that are still figuring out how to make the best of electrical vehicles in the country, right? It could be from the standpoint of parts, from a manufacturing standpoint, what kind of metal to use, what kind of elements to use. A good part of it seems to be aluminum today, but is that the right choice? Are there substitutes? Is there a way to bring the price down? Today, the price is humongously high, one because of low volumes, other because of the cost of production itself, right? And for this, the government has given incentives. So you should try and watch, as students, as the future of India, very important for you to watch what's being done at the policy level. Humongous incentives have been given. And I'm sure recently a couple of automobile manufacturers have slashed their prices in electrical vehicles recently owing to this incentive and the policy that's come in. Now, as engineers, as future citizens of this country, it's very important that you try and look to see what you could do to enhance value. How can you bring down the cost of manufacture of any particular electrical vehicle? Because the policy itself is very, very conducive, right? There's this other thing. Look at this pandemic. So there's a very, very interesting thing that I would like to share with you all. On the chat box, I would like some of you type and participate, otherwise unmute and speak as well. How many of you thought you switched to digital payments for most of your transactions during the pandemic, as against giving cash, paying by cash for whatever you consume? If you think you switched to digital, say switched. Or if you think you stayed with cash, just say, yeah, fantastic. Just type cash if you think you stayed with cash. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yes, I switched. Look at that. Emphatically saying, yes, I switched. Yeah. I switched to digital payments. Brilliant. So what percentage do you believe of India has switched to digital payments? Type on your chat box. Whatever you think is reality in your view. What percentage of people have moved to digital today? 70 to 80? Lovely. Very interesting. Let's get to see other responses as well. Less than 40, 90. Very interesting responses. 90% people. Mr. Senthil Kumaran, all this is information for you to try and construct certain other things for, in terms of how we need to educate ourselves as a society. 30 to 40, 50, 60, 45 to 55. Very interesting. Look at the kind of precision there. We're getting range on. Very nice. Very interesting. So there is this thing that I'm going to give you a bit of statistic. In India, on an average, 120,000, 120 lakh transactions take place, financial transactions take place. 120 lakh financial transactions. This is by volume. I'm not saying by ticket size, right? It could be for 100 rupees, it could be for like 5 crores, whatever. 120 lakh financial transactions. Of these, less than 30 lakh financial transactions are digital in India, even post-COVID. Would you believe that? So it calls for a few things. Let me hear, as the future of this country, what do you think, if you had the choice, if you were the policymaker of this country, or if you were that evangelist for this digital switch, because many of you said I've switched, what do you think we should do to switch this country, the remaining 90 lakh transactions, into digital? Type your views on chat box. What do you think we should do? If people are not doing it, if you had the authority to do, spread awareness. Very nice. Must increase cash back and to benefit end customers. Easy process. Very interesting. Very interesting. Educate them about technology. Lovely. 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 Awareness and making it more simple. Isn't UPI simple? Isn't Bhim simple? There are quite a few things, but we got to think about it. What is simple? I think the answer lies in what we've listed in here. There's a question back to each of us. Maybe we should think a little bit deep on each of these areas. Give tax benefits. Fantastic. Fantastic ideas. Fantastic ideas. Now, many people do not know the advantage of this. Some people have not switched to digital because they're afraid of security concerns. I already have only like so many thousand rupees in my bank. And if I go digital, what if somebody takes it away? That fear is there in people, right? So as the future workforce of this country, it's very important that you get ready to understand these kinds of challenges that the country has. Why I'm talking about such examples is I think you should always try to see when I'm coming out of my college education or as a professor that's teaching in a college, very important for me to see what is the world going through? Where am I going to contribute value? Where can I come in? Right? Because one is my degree. Other is, who am I? Do I know where my passion is? Then you bring the two together. The who am I comes in. The passion comes in. You look at the problems that the world has. That is why you are here. We are all here to solve problems, big or small. Could be challenges that we solve at our home front, could be challenges that we solve at the societal front, right? Big or small, we're all here to solve something or the other. So you understand the passion, you try and impose the problems that you get to see on the world on top of it. Then there's something very important that needs to be done, which is, okay, I know this is my aspiration, I know this is the problem, but do I know how to solve it? That's the other thing. Do I know how to solve it? So for me to solve this, I got to have the right skills, right abilities, right frame of mind, right? How do I gain it? Am I being taught that in my college? May or may not. Do I know what really is needed in the industry? May or may not. So how do I find out? So one very important element that each of us need to do is, depending on whichever year you are in your college degrees, very important that you start getting involved in associations that contribute back to the society. You get involved in internships in companies. You try and study what's going on in the companies, understand the processes, understand difficulties, understand value creation areas. You could try and become an employee, or you could try and become an entrepreneur yourself. The choice is yours, but it's very important for you to understand where you can get in, right? So that is one part. The other part is, you know what, anytime we go in, we've been asked to train ourselves. We've been asked to go skill ourselves. So some people come back and tell us, sir, they're asking me for certification. Do I have this certification, that certification? Do I have this degree, that degree? Then only I'm taken into the company. Of course, yes, because companies will need to have certain kind of eligibility criteria for them to make sure that you are capable of performing what they want. There are different ways to do this, right? Some have their own assessment tests. Some just rely purely on degrees that you come with. Some have a combination of the two. Some have, some look to see if you've done any, if you've been part of forums like this Rotary, Yuva, Youth, many forums, JCI. There are quite a few forums around, right? All these will kind of contribute to your experience. They'll ask, okay, tell me, young child, what have you done in this project with JCI? What have you done in this project with YI or UR or somebody, right? So then you can say, I was part of this, here are the 4 things I did, I kind of coordinated this, I did a project management, right? I kind of created something to solve this particular problem that the city had, whatever it is. All these will be taken together in consideration for getting you a job, right? Now, when you get there, there are still some who would say, no, it still won't work, because some companies might say mine is micro-focused. Mine is micro-focused. I have, yes, I can already see Mr. Kumaran smiling, right? Mine is micro focus because I have specific jobs. And to those jobs, you need to come with this training so I can get you there right away, day one. Otherwise, what happens is many companies end up saying, we need to get you trained for like 6 months, 8 months, 1 year before you can become productive. So there are many, I mean, like ours for ourselves, what we do is we have programs where we skill people, right? You come in, you kind of go through a tuition for 3 months or 6 months or 1 year, depending on your background, your ability to crack. And I mean, we got something called HCL First Careers. And HCL Tech Bees, those people who have just completed 12th standard, right? 12th standard, fantastic marks. We catch them young, right? We skill them for that time and we put them into the job. Right? So this tuition is something that you go through. You can go back and check hcltechb.com or hclfirstcareers.com, and you will see that these are opportunities for people to get in. But that's for the IT industry and specifically to ours. We know this is a job, and for this job, we train people. Every company has a different model. Some companies may or may not have a model. Some companies will just rely on the certificate, right? But then certificate can only get you access to some level. Beyond that, your real ability is what is most important, right? In fact, if I recall, there's this report, I mean, there's the study that was done by ORF. I think it's called Observers Research Foundation. Last year, a year before, last year, I think, right? Just before the pandemic. They came out saying 5 factors, right? One is technology. I mean, let's say if you need to get into an automobile industry at the entry level as an engineer or as an MBA person or whatever it is for the varied jobs, there is some technology background, there's some technical understanding that you got to have. Apart from that, they said in the next 5 years, the study says this, I think the study, if I recall, covered 744 companies spread across the country, multiple sectors, textiles, retail, manufacturing, and a few others, right? Banking, and so on. Apart from the technical knowledge required for that industry, they talk about 5 important characteristics. One is trustworthiness. Trustworthiness is so important because the world is moving more and more into data. The world is moving more and more into, I mean, the jobs that each of us are doing are making us extremely accountable for not just our own selves or our companies, even for our end customers, whoever we're ending up servicing. Many a time you end up dealing with end customer data. It could be competitive data. I mean, it could be customer level data. There could be companies that are doing with, let's say, medical transcriptions for companies elsewhere in the US. Let's say you are getting into a job which is to do with within something like a large telco in India, and you're dealing with customer data. So trustworthiness is very important. Sometimes the company will end up giving you right at the entry level full access to its confidential information. So a big ask from each of us is trustworthiness. How does trustworthiness get demonstrated? I'm just being a bit conscious of time. Maybe I can take another 5 minutes. Is that okay, Mr. Senthil Kumaran? Yeah, 7 minutes. Yeah. So one way to showcase trustworthiness is, I'm sure many of us have been told by our parents, grandparents, and many others in our families, right? Manasyanyat, vachasyanyat, karmanyanyat, duratmanam, manasyekam, vachasyekam, karmanyekam, mahatmanam. What it really means is, manasyanyat is what is in the mind, vachasyanyat, what comes out by a speech, and karmanyanyat, which is what you actually end up doing, right? All 3 need to be congruent. Many of us would have learned congruency in mathematics back in school and college, but this is real congruency that was talked about several thousand years ago. Now, when all these three come together, manas, vachas, and karman, you exhibit trustworthiness. That's a very, very important sign that you got to demonstrate back to your employees. I mean, even if you end up being your own self-employed person, your own entrepreneur, I'm sure you will want to be like this, and you will want to have your own teams like this, your own members, whoever you end up getting into your company, right? The second, if I recall, is teamwork. Gone are the times where the world said, okay, it is your job. You only need to sit there on your desk and get it accomplished. No. Life has become such that you have to work with many others to even accomplish a very small task that's been given, because the complexity of work has increased. Though there are tools and technologies that have come to simplify the complexity because of the way we end up communicating, the transactions that take place across multiple stakeholders in the system have increased. So teamwork and ability to work in a team is very, very important, right? Which means there's a lot of times you got to understand what their point of view is. You got to be able to communicate your point of view to them, right? Be kind of empathetic. So it's kind of give and take, work together towards a joint goal, all that come into picture. The third is, because of this complexity, I'm sure this is one of the things that is only being increasingly pronounced year after year and decade after decade, is crystal clear communication. And when we say crystal clear communication, it's not just about English, it's about clarity of thought in your mind. Whatever you have, you want to be able to communicate to somebody in as few words, as deliberately, as impactfully as possible. So there is no ambiguity in what is being communicated. Now, you communicate at the same time, you try and receive somebody else's communication. So you got to have the ability to receive somebody else's communication clearly. You got to be able to understand. Why? Because, I mean, like, for example, if you look at it recently, I'm not sure if many of you watched this MOU that got signed between India and Japan, where we agreed to skill so many thousands of people for Japanese work, where people might either be sent to Japan or Japanese work will come here into India. So there's quite some cross-border dialogue, cross-cultural dialogue that will take place, right? For which we need to have the ability to communicate across cultures. It's not just within one culture where each of us come from, it is across cultures. Hence, clarity in communication is very, very important. The fourth thing that this ORF report talks about is service orientation. I call it service mindedness. Why this is important is, as you see, the industrial economy has changed. Even though the amount of goods that are being produced is increasing day in and day out, the way these goods end up being sold is service, right? And then the economy itself has moved into service, be it banking, be it hospitality, be it retail, travel, whatever. The IT services industry that I represent, 50 to 53% of India's GDP is coming only from services. And employers are demanding from the 744 employers, companies that were surveyed, the report says service orientation is an extremely important thing for you to have. So what does service orientation mean? Service orientation is the ability to serve somebody, right? Ability to see somebody else as a customer. Everybody else is a customer, right? Even at home, it could be with people at home, could be people in the society, people in the environment, when in the company that you're working with, in the company that you might be building as well as an entrepreneur, right? Being able to see every transaction as a service is very, very important. And the last thing which is the fulcrum of all these, is the complexity of problems. So gone are the days where problems were defined very simply. Today, even if they're defined simply, the complexity that's behind the problems, like for example, we talked about what percentage has moved into digital payments. It's very easy to say digital payment, but digital payment behind it has many things. Like we talked about security, we talked about movement from digital payment will also include movement from one system to another, one country to another, one form of currency to another. There'll be a lot of approved intermediary folks like the NACH who will be there, the various clearing houses, right? Now, how do they deal with it? They could be credit, they could be instant payments, as in directly debited from banks. It could be through a UPI kind of an interface. There could be aggregators in between. There are quite some complexities in every small problem that we take. So if I were to put an order of complexity, the order of complexity of problems in the world have only increased, and that is why people like you, the future of India, are a must. And you need to have these kind of characteristics for you to come in and shape the world. I'm sure many of you that are listening to this will already be in the journey. If not, you will get into that journey with that fire and passion that you will make India the best place ever. So with those few words, I think we are about 5:49. I'll stop here, Mr. Senthil Kumar and Ganeshan. I'll leave it back to all of you. Should there be any questions, I'll be happy to answer, either chat or unmute.
First of all, thank you very much, Subramji, for taking us through so beautifully into the context and trying to establish. Because one of the challenges which we keep hearing from colleges and institutions is that what are the mantras basically available for the next gen. And I think what you said of those five areas has become very, very important. And it is getting reflected when we are trying to talk to even, even an academic community. People are today are talking about academic honesty, which is supposed to be. I think that's something very important. And it needs to start coming from education institutions. So I would believe even the 10th and 12th examination, when the internal scores were supposed to be put or internal marks to be taken up, the trust on the education institution also was supposed to be questioned. Today we have a formula which is being done. So trust is something which is very important, and I like that particular item. Yeah, go ahead. I think you have the opportunity to unmute yourself and straight away, and don't feel shy. That's all I can say, because I can keep asking. Okay, there is something Shubham Bhandari has already asked a question. Shubham, would you like to ask? I think, and also just for the sake of information, people have joined that this is also going live right now on Facebook on our TLC higher education page. So people are also watching out there. That just to give you an idea if your friends are there. Shubham's question is very clear. I think you would like to take it up yourself.
Sure.
Are you feeling shy? You can go ahead and ask. You don't have to feel shy.
That's fine. You don't need to put him on the spot.
Yeah, I think he's there. Yes, Shubham. Please go ahead.
Please unmute.
You're on mute, Shubham, if you're speaking. Okay, so he's typed the question. The point is, IT companies are set to slash 3 million jobs because of automation by 2022. This is a news item. This came in yesterday and today as well. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Shubham. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Shubham Bhandari here from Atmi University. Yes, sir. So my question is like, as today only I have been going through the somewhat of news, and I really this eye-catching news was there that IT companies are going to slash 3 million jobs. That it's a huge number due to only one thing, that is automation by 2022. So being an MBA and pursuing MBA right now, I'm in second semester. So in marketing, I'm looking forward to having specialization in marketing field. And in that field, I'm like marketing information systems and all various procured jobs are being there. So what are your views on it, sir? Will it affect on the youth having considering the job offers and all such things in future?
Very, very pertinent question and very, very apt question, especially after news, because it's been made sensational. That's what media is there for, right? Media makes things sensational.
Yes, sir.
So let me try and respond to this, not directly, but first make you understand what these mean, right? If you go back to the days, let's say you were a horse cart manufacturer. Let's say some 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, how many horse carts would have been in demand? Quite a few.
Yes, sir.
What were the other modes of transportation that would have been in demand at that time? Walking?
Maybe walking, bicycles.
No bicycles.
Yeah.
4,000
Okay.
years back, 3,000 years back, right?
Okay, 3,000. Okay, yes, sir.
Okay. In those days, if you were somebody who were a manufacturer of horse-drawn carts or the wheels, any other thing that helps you construct it, you would have been in phenomenal demand. If you fast forward yourself, right, to the 20th century, now would such folks be in great demand again? Not necessarily, because there were alternative forms that came in, that were better mechanisms that came in. So what happened in this time was human beings grew to the demand. They skilled themselves, they upskilled themselves to demand. So whoever was manufacturing those forms of transport enhanced their skills and abilities to manufacture newer forms of transport, or they went into alternative businesses. Likewise, it happens in every industry. It's not just in IT industry. In IT companies, IT industry, because of the speed of change of technology, speed of infusion of technology, right? What happens is the need to upskill oneself is very, very high, and it's a very short life cycle. It is not even a 10-year life cycle. If you I'm not sure if you would even know, 30 years back, if somebody said in IT that I am an expert in C, C++, right, would have been a phenomenal demand.
Yeah.
If the person even today says, I only know C and C++, there's hardly any application that gets written in that. There are newer technologies that have come in. That exactly is what is going on here, right? So those things that can be automated. See, end of the day, what is it that's being done is human beings like you and I are sitting there and trying to see how much of it can be bettered for people. Like I said, the aspect of human beings is you progress with the day. With IT, the progress is possible much faster, much quicker. And hence you would see that those jobs would go, not necessarily the people.
Yeah.
Right? Those jobs which were manual, if you recall, I'm not sure if you know your parents, somebody, some other elders in your families, there would have been stenographers in those days, taking notes. There would have been typists. Can you say my job today is a typist only? No, everybody is a typist today. We all are typists, correct? Because you type in the keyboard and you know how to do it well, correct? So that's what happens with technology. With how technology has come, the erstwhile jobs, which today are considered archaic, are no longer required as those independent jobs. They've just morphed into other forms. Same thing is going on in these process industries as well, right? When I say process, things which are to do with business process. A lot of business process work was going on manually. It's not just today. I mean, somebody has just made the news sensational today, but this has been going on last 6, 7 years, 10 years that I know of. It's been there. Every day there's a change, there's an increment, right?
Yes.
Of kind of automation being brought in. Some companies bring in earlier, some companies bring in later. So whoever is the end consumer, they bring in, it's basis them only. So the news is sensational. You should not get worried about it. As youngsters, you should always be ready for change.
Yes, sir.
It's the only constant thing, as they say.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Right, Shubham? Best
Yes.
wish.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you, sir. Yeah, please go, Danish. Go ahead, ask a question. Danish Kadri, go ahead.
Agree.
Danish, unmute yourself and ask the question. Yes, Danish, go ahead. You are muted. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Okay, I have given you an invitation to unmute now.
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So before asking my question, I'd like to thank Mr. Subbaraman and the TLC group for organizing this seminar. It has helped me and my friends from Little Flower High School a lot, and it has enhanced our knowledge a lot, sir. So thanks a lot for that.
Welcome.
Sir, my question is really simple, sir. Our talk was predominantly based on passion, sir. So my question is, how do we find our passion, sir, in a young age? How do we discover our passion?
Have you heard resonance frequency in physics? No?
No, sir.
Sometimes in school they do teach, right? So what it means is when the frequency of two things match, then there is a much larger proportion of impact that's felt around. Like a clear example is the tuning fork, right? So what happens is when you do something, and the moment you know whatever you're doing is making you extraordinarily happy, it's as if you believe this is your purpose in life. And you can construct a value around this to whosoever, right? That's what passion is. Now, an immediate follow-on question would be, but what, sir, if it does not fetch me money to run my life? You'll figure a way out. The moment you discover your passion, you will discover how to monetize what you want to monetize. That's only secondary. Yeah. So
Yes.
find out, that's why I keep saying, right? Involve yourself in projects, social projects, societal projects. Today, there are so many things going because of COVID, right? Finding beds, getting oxygen, post-COVID, so much of anxiety in the minds of people. There are projects that have been launched to deal with that, deal with depression and so on. Whatever touches you, whatever, the moment you do, you know that there is something on you that's kind of starting to vibrate, right? Your whole body starts vibrating, saying, yes, this is it. You found your passion. And upon doing that, you believe the purpose is attained. That's your passion. Go after that. Doesn't matter what industry, what sector, what segment, whatever. The rest will naturally follow.
Yes. Thank you once again, sir.
Danish, just 1 minute. I want to add what
Yes,
Subramji has said. I just want to add it.
Yes, sir.
Once you identify, once you get a job, don't kill your passion. Continue to nurture. Because as much nurturing you will do, that much, what he said, no monetization you will be able to. Because many of us just think naukri mil gaya and I'm happy about it. I'm not getting into anything else. So that is something I think which I've seen a lot of youngsters getting this kind of a trouble. Once I get a job, then I think I'm okay. I was just talking to my nephew today and I asked him a very simple question, what next? He said, I don't want to go to engineering, but get me a job where I will get, after I finish, I should get an employment. I said, first, if you're not clear about your passion, and you asked a very right question to sir, I think he made it very clear that what gives you the satisfaction. But nurture, continuously nurture, that's very, very important. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead. Any other question? Yeah, Dev, go ahead. Yes, Dev. You can. I have given you the rights to unmute. Please go ahead.
Actually, my question is an extension to the previous question only. If in any case we try to follow our passion, then there is a huge chance of failure as well, right? There are the two sides of a coin. So how to
You are muted, Dev. If your bandwidth is low, just put on your switch off your video and just ask the question. No problem. Yeah, go ahead, Dev. Now try. Unmute yourself. Yeah, in case if somebody else is that, I think he's got a network issue. Anybody else who had any other question? Yes,
Hello?
Dev. Yes, Dev. Now we can hear
Okay. Okay, sorry for the inconvenience, sir.
you. No problem.
My question is an extension to the previous question only. Sometimes we follow our passion, right? But there is a chance of failure on the other side, like the two side of a coin. So how to overcome the fear of failure while pursuing our passion?
Question is, what is failure?
Failure means like this is what I feel personally, that if we set a goal or a vision and if we cannot reach to that vision in a particular frame of time, then that might be called a failure.
So you basically are saying you've set a goal. It's not a vision. You've set a goal and you've not reached the goal. Right?
Yes, sir.
Passion doesn't follow a goal. I mean, passion, it's for a purpose. It is not for saying I need to achieve so much from the standpoint of earning, from the standpoint of making a solution work. That's not passion. Passion is much bigger than all that. It's the purpose for which you stay. The fear that typically many have is, will I be considered an outlaw in the environment? Will I be seen? It's not our fear, it's the fear of what others will get to see about us, get to think about us. I think that is what we should avoid. We don't have to, I mean, we're not living to be judged by somebody else. Dave, you want to live your passion. The moment you know you, let's for a moment pretend that you want to be a serious craftsman. You pursue it. In the city where I live, there's a whole colony of craftsmen which have been for hundreds of years doing only idols as crafts. And it comes generation after generation. They don't get themselves judged by somebody else. They like doing it, they're happy doing it. Whatever monetary value it gives them. But they're very happy doing it. Right? They think they're born to do that. And they're happy doing that. So I think we should get ourselves to that point that we don't live to be judged by somebody else. We're all human beings. Everybody is a human being. There's a start and there's an end. What happens in between is our contribution to the human race to make it progressive. In that journey, if our passion aligns to the progress, continue that passion. Nobody but you, Dave, can decide if it's a failure or success. Nobody can decide. Everybody can have opinions. Let's not get bogged down by opinions. Opinions will be there, right? But decision is yours. I hope.
Dave, did you get your answer?
Maybe he's
muted. He's muted. No, he's there.
there.
Okay. Anybody else has any question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely, sir. Good.
Okay. Yeah. Any other question? If not, then I think we should conclude the session. And just for the benefit of the participants who have joined, this will be available. The whole video will be available on the Facebook Live itself, as well as it will go on to a YouTube channel, which we are trying to create. And again, which people should be able to go back and kind of refer back. We also ourselves, stopped a couple of episodes, being so much things happening around the COVID that people, and there's a blast of webinar blast which was being done. So we kind of controlled for 2 months, and we said, okay, we will start. But then I think it's okay. This is a journey which we have taken up and agreed to take this journey. But just to quickly, tell my takeaway and what I think, because as I work with schools, colleges across the country, I think the message which I am taking from you too, as ambassador of yours to go to the country, I think those 5 key points which you talked about are very, very important and critical. The trustworthiness is something which we really need to look at it. I think it also requires a lot of cultural shift in the way we operate at our social structures and educational structures. And that I think that will something very, very important. Second, teamwork. Everybody tries to talk about teamwork, but whether it is individual who needs to grow or whether how many of them have B teams or shadow teams, that's something which always a question which people kind of talk about. And the third thing which you talked about, which was very, very important, I think for all the students who are here and who are going to see it little later, my request to all of you, and I think he said it, if you can't communicate yourself crystal clear, I think it's you have wasted your time and the people who are in front of you. I think that crystal clear part of it, what he said, I love that idea of crystal clear, because communication is a medium for you to basically express what you have comprehended, what you have kind of understood in your own form. And don't worry, it needs to have a good combination of written, oral, all that is something which really need to kind of look at. And the last point, I think, just 1 minute if I can. What is the complexity of the problems, right? That's what you said. Yes.
Yeah.
The complexity. I think that's something which we really need to kind of build upon. How do we try to work with different kind of environment, different kind of people is something very, very important.
Service
I think, yeah.
Service orientation also.
Service orientation, that connect to the community. Connect to the community is something very important. And my request to all your, please go back and tell your institution also that if they can start working with the communities around them, let them not take a community which is 100 kilometers away, because some chairman or some principal's native place happens to be that, but something which is next to your own education institution. And if you can do that, I think that is something very important. One last question, Subramji, I wanted to understand. Many people keep talking about courses versus colleges. Courses versus colleges when it comes to career choices. What is your advice on that? And I think there's one more question which has come up. You can answer this and then you can answer that. What will be your suggestion to a middle class guy whose passion is to start an IT oriented company in India? What are the basic qualities he requires to acquire?
Yeah.
There are 2 questions to you.
Sure. It's a very, very interesting question. Straightforward for us to answer. You would see that over 95% of companies that got started, right, maybe even more, were all by people who at that point were middle class or even lower from an economic standpoint. Okay. All that they had was a fire in them. They had a passion to perform, passion to create a difference, right? That is what, and like Mr. Senthil Kumaran said, they were nurturing their passion as the companies got bigger and bigger. You have these and you work on those 5 things that we just now talked about: trustworthiness, teamwork, communication, service oriented, and ability to solve complex problems as time progresses. You've got it all, everything. That's all you need. Yeah. I hope that answers you. Now, coming back to your question, Senthil Kumaran, Courses versus colleges. I mean, that's kind of making it stereotype one for the other. My my recommendation would be somewhere else in terms of, you know, your passion. Courses are immaterial in my view, which is one of the reasons why we it's so coincidental that you asked, right? One of the reasons why we went out to start this program in our company, I'll probably take a minute to talk about it. It was not in my the program is called HCL Tech B. Just people can type www.hcltechb.com. What this does is, we figured out that people end up learning different courses over time. They end up going to various colleges over time. They all have their own merits and non-merits. Of course, basis various reasons, some get jobs, some don't get jobs. In our study within our company, we found out that when people go through all these things, they come into our company for a job as a campus hire or as an off-campus, we end up spending anywhere between 3 and 9 months, sometimes up to a year, to be productive. So we said, let's do an experiment. The experiment is, you finish 12th standard, young child, no problem. You're a brilliant person, no problem. You crack our exams. You crack our learnability assessment. It's a learnability assessment is more a dialogue, more an interaction. Kind of I can't say it's an interview, it's more an assessment to see how well somebody can learn. That's all.
Willingness to learn.
Willingness, ability and willingness to learn. You crack these two. You pay a small tuition, right? We skill you over the next 6 months to a year for our specific jobs. That's it. And these are assured jobs. It's not like we skill you, will give you a certificate and you can find your own job. No. We skill you for known assured jobs. After this, what happens? People come in, they start performing from day one. We already have well over 3,500 people in this mode in our company. Right? We also get them into higher education because education, general knowledge, vidya as it's called, knowledge is required. You got to continuously have general understanding, not necessarily specific to the job. Like we kind of talked about molasses and sugar, sugar cane and corn and how you produce ethanol. General knowledge is important, right? So we kind of get you into courses related to our area, not necessarily to the specific job that you're doing. So you can expand your horizon of knowledge. So you get into higher education as well. That's part sponsored or fully sponsored, depending on the university. We have tie-ups with them. So what happens is, somebody after 12th standard gets a job of his or her choice within our company, basis availability. And from there, he or she starts earning at a very young age. You are 18 and you start earning. So you can fend for yourself. You've got education because it's part of the program, right? So compared to somebody who's finishing engineering or an equivalent, you already have 4 years of experience in that area. So your ability to solve complex problems gets manifold.
Right.
That's the beauty of this program. So horses versus colleges, actually, if this program was available at that time, whenever I completed my 12th standard, I would have joined this. That would be my response to you.
Yes. So thank you very much, and namaste. Stay safe, and we will surely connect once I am at Madurai. We will surely try to take some time, an appointment, and reach out to you. But I think we appreciate your time to spend with these next gen, which is very important and critical, because it has been always a complaint to us that the tier 2 and tier 3 cities don't get access to actually talking to people and then getting these kind of opportunities. So we thought that through this particular forum, we should be able to create some of those initiatives. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ganeshan, for.
Thank you, Mr. Subramanian.
Thank you. It's a very noble initiative that you've taken. Absolutely, let it benefit how many ever people possible. All the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all the participants who have joined. And I think this will be, the video is available live right now. As soon as we get, we'll upload it on the YouTube. We'll try to see if we can go on YouTube, but Facebook, it is available for you. Thank you very much and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.